passion is what makes it possible. Are we Tuskegee men or what?
Sir, yes, sir!
Hello. Welcome back to another theory of Master of the Air Season 1. The true story of the Tuskegee Airmen and why they're called Red Tails explained. The Tuskegee Airmen were a group of black fighter pilots and bombers that made a significant contribution to the war against the Axis during World War II. Warning, spoilers ahead, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Summary of the contents. 1. The Tuskegee Airmen were the first black pilots in US history, breaking down boundaries and demonstrating incredible bravery throughout WW2. 2. Their founding was a success for civil rights campaigners, resulting in an amazing track record and historical accomplishments. 3. Despite racism after WW2, the Tuskegee Airmen were still sought after for their experience and contributions to Air Force technology. Let's begin. During World War II, from 1939 to 1945, many astonishing stories emerged about the courageous efforts made to battle the Axis forces, one of which has gone down in history and is recounted in Masters of the Air: the efforts of the Tuskegee Airmen. The Tuskegee Airmen were an all-black unit of the United States Army Air Force. They comprised the 332nd Fighter Group and the 477th Bombardment Group. The unit was well known for its remarkable performance during the war, and as a result, they received numerous awards for their efforts. There are two reasons why the Tuskegee Airmen are remembered. First and foremost, their very existence was a significant triumph for the U.S. military. According to the National World War II Museum, there were no black pilots prior to the Tuskegee Airmen. The Jim Crow laws that dominated the United States banned any black citizen from getting above the rank of regular soldier. More importantly, the Tuskegee Airmen were distinguished by their extraordinary bravery and service. They not only changed history, but they also did an excellent job. Tuskegee Airmen, their origins. Josiah Cross as Richard Macon, Masters of the Air. After black recruits were denied the opportunity to become pilots during World War I, black activists fought tirelessly for their right to fly in the next war. Because of the efforts of these civil rights activists, Congress passed Appropriations Bill Public Law 18 in April 1939, which authorized the provision of funding for black pilot training. Then, when the war came to the United States in 1941, many black soldiers seized the opportunity to become pilots. With so many members, the United States Army Air Forces formed the all-black 99th Pursuit Squadron. The Tuskegee Airmen were formed as part of Tuskegee University's civilian pilot training program. This program enabled many black men to train as pilots, making them so qualified that the U.S. military couldn't turn them down. Along with that, a series of exams were administered to the men, resulting in the airmen being the brightest and most physically fit candidates available. The 99th Squadron left for sea in April 1943 after tough training in Tuskegee, Alabama, and was joined by the 332nd Fighter Group in February 1944. These were the two active units during the war. Our Masters of the Air's Tuskegee Airmen real-life pilots. The Tuskegee Airmen introduced in Episode 8, like the majority of the Masters of the Air characters, are based on actual Tuskegee Airmen pilots. The three main characters in the episode are 2nd Lieutenant Alexander Jefferson, 2nd Lieutenant Robert Daniels, and Captain Richard Macon. All three of these men were real people who served as Tuskegee Airmen during WW2. As Episode 8 implies, all three were shot down during a flight to France and, after reuniting in German captivity, were brought to Stalag Luft Roman III, where members of the 100th were still detained. How the Tuskegee Airmen completed more than 500 missions in World War II. Tuskegee Airmen's mission Master of the Air. In Masters of the Air, the Tuskegee Airmen reached their 500th mission. Given that the 332nd Fighter Group landed in Europe only 4 months ago, this figure is pretty astounding. However, one component of this was the missions that the airmen flew. Unlike the 100th Bomb Group, the Tuskegee Airmen were not flying over dangerous areas of Europe where death was inevitable. It wasn't until June 1944 that the squadron had more risky flights over France. This explains why the Tuskegee Airmen were able to fly 500 missions, while the men of the 100th Bomb Group only made it through 25. Whereas the 100th was deployed on multiple consecutive flights over Germany, where being shot down was practically unavoidable, the Tuskegee Airmen concentrated their efforts in less perilous areas such as Italy, where survival was more than conceivable. Both squadrons contributed significantly to the war effort, but they witnessed a very different type of warfare. The Tuskegee Airmen's role in D-Day. Masters of the Air, D-Day. In Masters of the Air Episode 8, the 100th Bomb Group takes part in the invasion of Europe, also known as D-Day. The Tuskegee Airmen did not participate in the D-Day landings in June 1944, but it was a critical month for the squadron. While the 100th bombed German transportation links like bridges and highways, the Tuskegee Airmen were finally assigned to heavy bomber escort missions. The troops had previously engaged in smaller, less dangerous missions in Italy, but now had the opportunity to fly over active territory like France and Germany. Why were the Tuskegee Airmen called Red Tails? Tuskegee Airmen Plane, Masters of the Air. Another feature that characterized the Tuskegee Airmen was their nickname, Red Tails. Unlike the 100th's somber title, the Bloody Hundredth, the Red Tails was a humorous appellation referring to how the Tuskegee Airmen painted the tails of their P-47 planes red. The noses of their P-51 Mustang planes were also crimson. Though this color scheme may have appeared perilous because it may have made their planes stand out to opponents, the red detailing on the Tuskegee Airmen's planes distinguished them from other air squadrons, similar to how the Band of Brothers Easy Company wore spades on their helmets. What happened to the Tuskegee Airmen after WW2? The Tuskegee Airmen, Masters of the Air. When the Tuskegee Airmen returned home from the war, they were not greeted with the same enthusiasm and pride as other airmen in the United States. Despite their remarkable record and significant contributions, the airmen encountered tremendous hostility in America. However, the Tuskegee Airmen remained crucial to the United States military. When segregation was abolished in the military in 1948, airmen were greatly sought after for their abilities. They played an important role in developing Air Force technologies and training the next generation of pilots. Over time, the Tuskegee Airmen continued to impart their knowledge. While Masters of the Air provides a quick glimpse at the Tuskegee Airmen, other films go deeper into the renowned World War II squadron. The Tuskegee Airmen, a 1995 film starring Lawrence Fishburne, is available for streaming on Max. Red Tails, a 2012 film, is presently available on Disney+. The documentary Double Victory, The Tuskegee Airmen at War, offers a more intellectual perspective. In any case, the Tuskegee Airmen are fascinating to read about, and their appearance in Masters of the Air adds a new dimension to the story of the 100th. Thank you for watching. Thank you.